The doctor admitted that he gave the patient wrong anesthesia, but said that's not what caused his heart attack. You want to learn why the doctor changed my entire theory of liability when I had a chance to question him during his deposition? Come join me for a moment as I share with you this remarkable story. Hi, I'm Gerry Oginski. I'm a New York medical malpractice and personal injury attorney practicing law here in the state of New York. So now this gentleman went in to have elective shoulder surgery. And now, in preparation for the surgery, the anesthesiologist comes in and begins to anesthetize him. And he gives him a medication, and within seconds, the patient suffers a massive cardiac arrest. And now he's got to spend the next 15-20 minutes trying to revive the patient. Ultimately, he does survive. And then the patient brings a lawsuit against the hospital and the anesthesiologist. And it was our theory of liability that this patient was allergic to the medication, that the anesthesiologist should have recognized that he was allergic to the medication and never should have given it to the patient. And had he not done that, he never would have had this cardiac arrest. So now, during the course of the lawsuit, I did have an opportunity to question this anesthesiologist. I said to him, "Doctor, are you aware that this patient was allergic to lidocaine?" He said, "No, I was not aware." I said, "Did you bother to read the electronic medical records which indicate that this patient was allergic to medication?" He said, "No, I only had the paper chart." Isn't it good medical practice, doctor, to read all of the patient's medical records, his pre-op medical records? Yes, it is. Had you known that this patient was allergic to lidocaine, would you still have given him lidocaine to anesthetize him? No, I wouldn't. Would you agree, doctor, that giving a patient a medication to which they are allergic to is a clear violation from the basic standards of medical practice? Yes, I would. Isn't it true that giving this patient the lidocaine caused this heart attack? He said, "No, it's not." I said, "Excuse me?" Because that was our entire theory, that he gave the patient a medication he was allergic to, that the allergic reaction known as an anaphylactic reaction caused this patient to have a massive heart attack. And he said, "No, that's not what happened." I said, "Explain, doctor." As I'm preparing the lidocaine, the injection, to go in to anesthetize him, now I use a special device, some sort of sono twitch device, to make sure it's in the correct place. And then I administer the medication. I said, "So, this injection is supposed to go in, and you were going to give him the lidocaine, and you did give him the lidocaine, correct?" "Yes." He said, "But that's not what triggered the reaction." I said, "What's the problem?" He said, "Well, as I went in, the device that I was using to locate where it's supposed to go wasn't working. So I left the patient," get this, he leaves the patient on the table with a needle sticking out of him, rather than calling an assistant, gets another device, comes and figures out the correct location. He then goes ahead and gives the injection, and now, within a fraction of a second, this patient suffers cardiac arrest, and now he's got to revive him. I said, "So what's the problem?" He said, "This patient didn't have an allergic reaction." Now I asked him to explain that. And he said, No, there was no allergic reaction here." I said, "Explain further." He said, "What happened was the needle injection, instead of going into the muscle, went into the patient's bloodstream. And that created a toxic reaction to the heart. And that should never happen, ever." And you know what's amazing? My expert confirmed that what this doctor was saying was absolutely true. But the bottom line was that it didn't make a difference. Because I asked the doctor, I said, "Doctor, I want you to assume that you knew that this patient was allergic to lidocaine. Would you agree that if you knew that this patient was allergic to lidocaine, you never, ever would have given him this sedative?" "That's correct." "And if instead you had given him general anesthesia, would you agree that this entire episode, this cardiac arrest, never would have happened?" "Yes, I would." And that was one of the only times in my career where a doctor gave me an explanation that literally changed my entire theory of liability. But the bottom line was, it didn't make a difference because the outcome was still the same, and all of this was preventable had the doctor bothered to read the patient's medical records prior to going ahead and administering the anesthesia. So why do I share this quick story with you? I share it with you just to give you one example of a gentleman I was able to help obtain compensation as a result of a doctor violating the basic standards of medical care. You know, I recognize you're watching this video because you likely have questions or concerns about your own particular matter. Well, if your matter did happen here in New York and you're thinking about bringing a lawsuit, but you have questions that need to be answered first, what I invite you to do is pick up the phone and call me. I can answer your legal questions. You know, this is something I do every single day, and I'd love to chat with you. You can reach me at 516-487-8207 or by email at Gerry, Gerry, at oginski-law.com. That's it for today's video. I'm Gerry Oginski. Have a great day.